In this episode of Avenu Sports, what's the buzz about daylight saving prime? Dr. David Forbes, founder and pastor of Columbus Christian Center, a man who knows, breaks it all down. It's all right here, only on Avenu Sports. He was more than an athlete. He was an icon, a showman, a living, breathing highlight reel. The world knew him as Primetime, a man who defied gravity on the field and rewrote the rules off it. But what the cameras never captured was the weight of it all, the burden of creating and maintaining his alter ego called Prime when Deion is a recluse and all he wanted to be was Deion. For years, he had run from the pain, outraced the doubt, danced past the darkness. But tonight, there was nowhere left to run. Money, fame, championships. Deion Sanders had it all, except peace. And so, on that night in 1997, Deion Sanders made a choice to end the pain. But God had other plans.
You were in an interview recently with a dear friend of mine from Texas, Kirk Franklin.
That's my dog.
He's the greatest.
That's my man.
You opened up about the darkest days in your life. I want to play a moment of that interview. Let's play it, guys.
I was suicidal, and I'm driving my car off a highway to go to commit suicide, and I'm listening to Conqueror. Yeah. It was like double-mindedness at its finest hour. And slowly but surely, it didn't work because God kept me when I ran my car off the side of the highway in Cincinnati, Ohio. But slowly but surely, your music brought me back, dog. Like, I know all your stuff, look forward to all your stuff, and you know the relationship we have. So I needed someone like you that I could understand, that I could relate to.
Welcome to this show. It's called Avenu Sports. I'm your host, Tony Reynolds. Today we have a very special guest, Dr. David Forbes, pastor of Columbus Christian Center. And Dr. Forbes brings a very unique perspective, not only as a spiritual leader, but as also the son of Dr. David Forbes Sr., who is a founding member of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that's SNCC. He worked alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. His family's legacy of faith and social justice is truly inspiring. Dr. Forbes, thank you for joining us today.
Absolutely. Tony, thank you for having me as well. It's great to be here with you.
Can you tell us how you came across the meeting and how you led him to faith and prayer?
Yeah, absolutely. I don't mind sharing that. This goes back to in the late 90s. I had a privilege. I had a good friend, Pastor Al Jennings, pastors a church in Fort Wayne, Indiana. One of his members and one of his board members and church members is a wonderful man by the name of Eugene Parker. Eugene Parker has gone on to be with the Lord. Eugene Parker was Deion's sports agent at that time. And Deion was going through a really rough time, mild depression. His first wife, marriage was not doing well. She had taken his first two children, and his father passed the same week, and he tried to drive his car off of a ravine.
So that's true. Okay.
Yeah,
that's true.
And he was trying to, I guess, off himself, as the words he uses. And Eugene said, "Okay, partner, you're going to make a change and get some help, or we're going to shut this down." Because he was playing baseball with the Reds, Cincinnati Reds, and football with the Cowboys at that time. And so it just so happened that Roger Harper, who graduated from Independence High School, played safety with Deion at Dallas. The Cowboys were doing a charity basketball game against WNCI. Here, Roger Harper was bringing everybody in, and So Eugene and Coach and Pastor Jennings conspired, told Deion, look, there's a pastor we want you to meet in Columbus. He loves you, loves the Cowboys. He does your dance in the pulpit, which is all true. And they were telling me, look, this is our last chance to really get to Deion and give him some foundation that'll help him deal with the adversities that he's going through. And I met him. I got to the game, met him, sat right behind the bench, met him at halftime. We went into a separate locker room because his ankle was hurt. He wasn't playing. He was just there. And we went back in the locker room. We spent 3 or 4 hours in that locker room talking about life, talking about eternity. And he gave his life to the Lord, and that began our friendship. And we began drive down to Cincinnati to see him. He would drive up to Columbus to see me. A couple of times he brought some of his baseball friends. We fed him here at the church, different things like that. And we just maintained that friendship over the years, and he is doing great. In fact, I just spoke with him earlier today and was so happy to hear his voice. A very, very dear friend. Good man, genuine, authentic, and I love the way he stands for Christ as well.
Oh, that's a beautiful story. I mean, you know, that's amazing. I remember I always went to Clipper Stadium, and he was there for something at Columbus Clipper Stadium. Like, that's Deion. Yeah, that's amazing.
Now, look, Roger Harper, let's just be honest. Don't leave this out. Roger Harper would hit a man. That he was some kind of strong safety, boy, I'm telling you. He was a hitter and loved his spirit. I got a chance to meet him, and I met his brother as well. Just really good people. I thank God for them.
Yeah. Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. So what you're talking about, your identity isn't defined by your wins or losses like the Dallas Cowboys. They could care less if they lost. They were just happy in what they had just experienced. So that's amazing.
And I'm sure a loss does hurt. I mean, I look at what happened with Ohio State, and we are all with them. Well, not all of us were with them. I was with them. That hurt that last game of the season. I mean, that really, really hurt. And I think it hurt the players. I think they were all hurt. And but if you look at it, that hurt fueled them to work hard and really batten down the hatches and make a difference. And I think it helped fuel the next 4 games, which were all victories. So I think there's a microcosm there that if we face hardship and we face adversity properly, and the scripture says you're going to face temptations, you're going to have trials, you're going to have temptations, you're going to have tribulation, not great tribulation, but you will have tribulation in this world. But Jesus said, I've overcome the world. So walk with me and I will show you or teach you how to have victory. And victory means I come out the end better than I went in. And I think the Buckeyes are better off out of what happened, even if they had lost Monday night. But winning on Monday night, just really, that championship really makes everything worth it. Another microcosm you saw, and it proves that Christians are not flawless and perfect. You remember the game against Texas and the
Deion Anderson.
Yes. No, yeah. Look, hey, I was weak for a moment. It got me out of my character, got me out of my Christ suit, and I went right to the sideline. Notice what he did. He immediately or quickly repented. And then the Lord honored and rewarded him very, very quickly. And of course, rewarded all of us as well. That was very much worth it. So I love the fact that sports and spirituality are very, very similar. That's why you see the example. Paul uses the example, the boxer. You don't fight against the air. He uses about the runner. We run with patience. He uses these metaphors because sports teaches us so much about maximizing our ability, maximizing our potential, and those are very spiritual qualities and traits as well. And what these young men have started to do, and young women, because I shared with you the women on the softball team at Oklahoma, And if you can find that, I mean, they had some wonderful testimonies. Culture has changed. Now, I'm a product of the 70s and 80s, so I can give you, if I say, and you're about somewhat in my genre, if I say the Immaculate Reception, you know I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about, right? I give you Hail Mary. That's Roger Staubach and the great Cowboys against those horrible Vikings, man. I don't like those Vikings at all. And he had, 1 or 2 plays left and completed the Hail Mary. Notice how culture was engulfing faith and the Bible and the God of the Bible into the things that were happening on the field. They don't do that anymore. No one really talks about God. Nobody really wants to put the God of the Bible out there. So God said, well, I will raise up some young ladies and I'll raise up some young men that will honor me. Black, white, offense, defense. I mean, just on our team, you got Will Howard, the quarterback. You have Caleb Downs on defense. You got Travion Henderson. I mean, we can go on and on and on. And it is so refreshing. Ibuka, I just love seeing our young men, in this specific case, honoring God. It is so fulfilling. And I bless them all, man. I bless everything they're doing because I know that God will get the glory.
You have discipline, perseverance, teamwork. That fits right along with Christian principles.
Oh, absolutely it does. It does. Because whatever we do it heartily as unto the Lord. So I'm not a pastor that's a Christian. I'm a Christian who's a pastor. If I'm a bus driver, I'm not a bus driver and sometime I take Christ with me. I'm a Christian who is a bus driver. If I'm a school teacher, I'm a Christian who is a school teacher. I think we have to look at which came first. And for a Christian who is passionate, Christ is not only central, he's first. He is the reason that we do what we do. And so we give him glory and honor and praise. And I want people to see that. I'll share this testimony if I may. When I was in college at James Madison University, and since this is the avenue of Sports Avenue, I went to college with Charles Haley, with Gary Clark, and with Scott Norwood, who played on our football team there at James Madison. But my first year, I had cowboy gear, hat, scarf, jersey, jacket, scarf, pants. I had Dallas Cowboy tennis shoes. I had all this regalia up on my wall in my dorm. And the Lord sat me down and said, if I'm going to use you, you're going to have to get rid of all of that, because everyone looks at you and they see Dallas. They don't see anything else. They see Dallas. And it was bad. It was bad. People, they called me Dallas because they said, that's Dallas. And then at the time, there was a cowboy mascot. His name was Smokin' Ray, the brown guy, black guy with the cowboy outfit. And they said, well, his son goes here to JMU. That's him right there. They said I was his son because that was how people identified me. And that was a grievance to the Lord. And he said, I want to use you. I have things that I want to do with you, but not until people see me in you. So I took all my gear, all my outfits, all my posters, and put it in a Foot Locker and put it away. And started living for the Lord. That's when he called me to the ministry in college. Now listen to this. Years later, I have this meeting where I meet Deion Sanders, my favorite cowboy. And now I'm traveling with the team. I'm on planes with the team, hotels with the team. I'm in a luxury box. One day I looked up and saw I'm in a luxury box at a Cowboy game. 5 people are in the luxury box. My wife, Tracy, myself, June Jones, Jerry Jones, and Stephen Jones. No, hold on. Jerry freaking Jones.
Yeah,
I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And how did that happen? You can't ask for that to happen. So the Lord gave that back to me because I was willing to lay those things aside. And just as a secondary note, Dallas Cowboy football, DCF. My initials are DCF, David Collins Forbes. So the Lord knows what he's doing at all times.
Love that. I
Yes.
love that. That brings it back. Oh, man, that is beautiful.
Yes,
absolutely, sir. Pastor. Absolutely. So you talked about that. I was going to bring up them bringing this into their everyday life, but I'm going to ask you a different question. What advice would you give to young Christian athletes just starting on their journey?
Wow. I would say keep Christ first, and I use that terminology, but keep Christ only. Make him your passion and your love. I believe secondarily, you recognize the things we do are a platform, but it does not define your life. And so we want young men and young ladies, young athletes, to do the things I said earlier. Learn your craft. Talk to older athletes. Talk to people that have gone where you are going, and learn what you can about your craft. Learn what you can about what you're doing. I do that as a pastor. I speak to older pastors. I speak to men and women that have been doing this longer, because there are things they can pass on. Have fun. I mean, I think the one thing about young people today is they're too serious and too sad. You're a teenager, you're a young adult. Enjoy this life and have fun and resist the stress, resist being stressed out. And learn how to be a good teammate. Learn how to be reliable. Learn how to be responsible, accountable, selfless, not selfish, selfless. And again, Tony, I believe that the characteristics of Christ in Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, the fruit of the Spirit, I mean, that 16 through 22, it really talks about those characteristics. I think in the church, we spend so much time talking about Bible characters, Moses, Elijah, Noah. We need to spend more time talking about the characteristics in the Bible, not the Bible characters, but the Bible characteristics. And why did God use Noah? He was reliable. Why did God use David? He wasn't flawless, but his heart, he was loyal to God. And so those characteristics help make our life complete. And in sports, it makes a coach a better coach. It makes the players better players. It makes teammates better teammates. And that team is going to achieve more. Now, sometimes you got to go through and struggle. My son, who's an excellent quarterback, he can really throw that ball. And one of his seasons was a winless season. How do you enjoy that? And what do you learn from that? There's a lot that can bring enjoyment if you're doing it for the Lord. And there's a lot to learn if you're doing it for the Lord. Rather than getting bitter and angry and filled with unpleasantness, it can be a life-building experience.
Oh, man, that is wonderful. That's wonderful wisdom to share with these young men and women because, like you said, the time that Ohio State played Michigan, and, they thought, hey, we're going to win. We've got the team of the century, which they do, yep. But they didn't win. But that loss allowed them to learn and then inspired them to greater things. So, yes, I love your wisdom that you're sharing today and the insight that you're giving us. Dr. Forbes, let's ask you a question that comes up with sports. We've heard a lot about God rewarding people when they're successful or people acknowledging God. They've gotten a touchdown, they look up, thank you, God. And got me thinking about, like, Ohio State played Notre Dame. And Notre Dame has their faith and their way of doing things, but they all prayed too. And so I wonder, does God reward faithfulness, right, and victory? Athletes point to the sky or kneel and pray. And what happens in cases like that? Both teams kneeled and prayed. How should we interpret this or think about this?
Hey, Tony, that's a great question. Listen, whoever prays the best, I guess. No. Yeah, go Bucks. I think it's a little more nuanced than that and a little more fundamental and basic than that. I believe that, first of all, we've got to look at a scripture, say, for instance, Colossians 3:17 and 3:23, that says, whatever you do, do it heartily as unto the Lord, not unto men, because that's where your reward comes from. And then I think also, Tony, of Matthew chapter 10, verse 32, Jesus says, this is the red letters, the hot sauce. Jesus says, if you acknowledge me before men, I will acknowledge you before my Father in heaven. If you deny me before men, I will deny you before my Father in heaven. So in the first instance, I think what we're seeing is that people are more willing to stand up and to represent or to reflect or to give God glory, because if he is the center of their life, then quite naturally, you mention the thing and or the aspect of your life that is most important. So that's what I think we see happening. On a secondary note, and this is maybe where the gridiron or the basketball court comes in, a person who has accepted Christ and connected to Christ in their heart is going to bear the fruit of the Spirit. All right, that's the actual Christian character: love, joy, peace, long-suffering, meekness, temperance, gentleness, goodness. They're going to embody those traits. Will we not want people like that on our team? You want as many people like that on your team. So it's not that God picks favorites. I think people who are yielded to Christ do better at their job than people who don't, because they're doing it for someone bigger. They're doing it for the Lord. And therefore, these athletes are better teammates. They are better roommates. They are better on the field with one another because they're selfless. They are thinking of others more than themselves. That's what you really do want in sports. So I think it does bring an edge, but not because God weighs, puts his thumb on the scale. And I sure am glad he helped Ohio State win on Monday night. But then you could ask the question, okay, what happened the last game of the season against Michigan? So the fans weren't praying hard enough. So prayer does work, it does help, but I think what's more important is that what we do is glorifying to God, and it's glorifying to God when we glorify him.
So thank you, Pastor. It's not about asking for victory, but asking for God's presence and guidance in whatever happens.
Right.
That is beautiful. Thank you. The question I have is, how can athletes who rely on their faith navigate, through the tough situations?
Sure. I remember seeing on YouTube or on X, this was last summer, it's actually the national champions in women's softball from Oklahoma University. And these young ladies, 4 or 5 of them were on a platform press conference, and they answered that question. And they said, it's not necessarily winning and losing. We get injured. We have injuries to deal with. Some of us, maybe we were coming up and got cut, or somebody was moved ahead of us and we were on the bench. You experience those things in sports. And honestly, we experience those type of things in life. And so the goal is not necessarily, I want to win every game. The goal is, I want to learn this sport. I want to master this sport. I want to maximize my skills, hone my skills. I want to do this for the glory of the Lord. I want to help my teammates be better. And then ultimately, I do want to win, but that's the very last thing. I want to learn the sport. I want to have fun. I want to get better at this. I want to glorify and honor God. I want to help my teammates. And if I could put all that together and gain a victory, that's great. But these young ladies, and these are the national champions, they said, if we lose, we glorify God. If we win, we glorify God. I'm thinking about Paul. Paul said, if I live or if I die, I'm glorifying God. And that is the motive I believe is helpful for young men and women in high school or collegiate sports to keep that balance. And Tony, I'll tell you one other thing. And I practice this in marriage. I practice it in life. I practice it as a pastor. I use the rule of two. In 2 minutes, will what just happened make a difference? Probably most things they do. In 2 days, will it make a difference? Maybe. What about 2 weeks? And I keep going 2 months, 2 years, and then 2 decades. And if 2 years from now, it really doesn't make that big of a difference, you can really let that go. And we're as humans not good at letting things go. And I think it hinders us. I give you an example. I have an excellent relationship with Coach Prime over at Colorado. He and I are very close friends. I had the blessing of an honor of leading him to the Lord. This was many years ago. And one of those games, this is back in the day when he was still playing football for the world famous Dallas Cowboys. He had me, and I went to many games with him. I was on the sideline. This was at FedEx Field against the Redskins. Okay. I triggered myself by saying Redskins, but cannot stand that team in Washington. They're good today though. But anyway, after the game, I got over. I led the prayer at the center of the field for both players from both teams, and led that prayer. And then these guys, the Cowboys lost that game, but these guys are hugging on each other, loving each other, and giving each other five, dapping each other up. And I'm just like, I'm still upset that the Cowboys lost. And I realized I'm more upset than the Cowboys. These guys sweat and laid their life down on the football field, and I'm just standing on the sideline looking like a coach, acting like a coach. But I realized, you know what? You have to be able to let these things go. And I think athletes have learned that. Maybe they've been trained to do that from a young age. If you get burnt or you make a mistake, you have to let it go. And prayerfully, it helps you become a better person. Short memory.
Thanks for watching this special episode of Avenu Sports we call Daylight Saving Prime, which deals with the issue of suicidal thoughts and attempts. If you or someone you know are having these thoughts, please dial 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. It's free, confidential, and available 24 hours. Until next time, always remember to stay kind, stay curious, and stay blessed.